You're listening to Dude Check This Out, Episode 2!
Hey, and welcome to Hey Dude, Check This Out. This is Kevin, and...
It's Noah, over here.
Yeah.
Sitting in the chair.
And this is the second episode of our podcast, which I feel like we've made it now.
Yeah.
2 in a row, a new record. So this podcast, Noah and I have known each other for a long, long time, about 22...
Yeah, about there.
22 years-ish, and we're not that old yet. And so we've known each other for most of our lives, but there's still a lot of things that we don't really share. Media, movies, video games, anime, cartoons, comic books, whatever. And so this is a podcast where we're going to kind of share those things with each other, even though we do share a whole bunch of stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, as much as, normal people do, but, this is a thing where, we are just straight up, doing it for the purpose of this podcast, which means we're doing it more with a purpose.
Yeah,
so.
And it's super cool and gives us something to do once a month because our lives are super exciting.
Also, my voice is garbage this week. I apologize.
Yeah.
I was sick last week, and that's what that's about.
Yeah, I'm also in my pajamas. I feel great. I just took a shower. We're in my bedroom, and I feel awesome. Noah's might be sick, but I just feel amazing.
I mean, I'm in your bedroom and you're in your pajamas, so I feel awesome. You did a show! Okay.
Yeah. Great. So, last week, if you listened, I told Noah that I was going to get him to play through the video game Fez, which I think is an awesome game.
It's pretty great.
It was great. I actually kind of walked through it with him at the kind of last few stages. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a background for the game before we kind of get into what Noah thought about it.
Let's do it.
So Fez is an adventure puzzle platformer game. The big twist, pretty much the big premise, is that you exist in a 3D world, but you interact with it in a 2D way.
2.75D.
Exactly right. That's what's on the box.
That's how Phil Fish likes to build.
So you can do a lot of cool things with perspective. So if you can turn the screen so you can turn on each of the 4 sides. Kind of if you think of it like a cube kind of deal. You can't bird's eye view or underneath it, but the 4 sides of the view, and you can kind of manipulate the geometry of the world since it exists 3D, but you interact with it 2D. It's pretty cool. It's a really cool concept. So
there's a little dude wearing a fez.
Yeah,
an actual fez.
The main
Gomez.
The main character is Gomez. He's the best. He wears a fez, and when he gets the fez, that's when that's when he gets to interact with the world in 3D.
His mind is opened to the 4th dimension, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. So the game has super awesome aesthetics. It looks super great. It is a kind of a Metroidvania style game, for those who know what that is. So it's a lot of jumping around and backtracking and going back to where you've been before, and you get to something and you can't complete it just yet, so you have to go explore somewhere else. It's a big exploration collectible game, so if you like collecting all the shiny bits, it's awesome.
Heck yeah.
It is pretty neat and interesting that there is no antagonist in the game. There's no bad guy.
Yeah, it's just you're on a journey.
Yeah.
And there's no missions or objectives or anything. There's no like in Metroid where it's hey, there's something going on your map over here, go over here. It's just almost pure exploration and figuring stuff out,
yeah,
which is neat.
It's super cool. And also my favorite part about it, the game does a total non-linear storytelling. So there is no real storyline or the game kind of sets you off hey, you need to go collect the things, do the stuff, go. And there's this enormous expansive world with a lot of lore and history. And
variety in environments too.
Yeah.
Just all sorts of different looks. This game's got a look.
Yeah.
A lot of looks.
And so you get to kind of make up not like make up the world and the story. You make it your own as you explore and figure it out. The game creator, Phil Fish?
Yeah, Phil Fish.
Gefilka Fish.
Gefilka Fish.
Said that he said like a few of the games kind of inspired him to kind of give you a better picture of the type of game. It's kind of like a lot of the puzzles get a little meta. You might want to remember that word if you're going to go play the game.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Oh. And so he said that it kind of, if you ever played Myst, which is like one of like the founding adventure puzzle games, it has a lot of open world, non-linear storytelling, meta puzzles. The game's aesthetics were inspired by Aiko and Miyazaki, with a lot of like the nostalgia, loneliness, and like is really open and like really kind of cutesy, but really like endearing looking places.
I like both those things a lot.
Yeah.
With Miyazaki and Iko. Iko's probably in my top 3 games of all time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's number 1 anymore. It used to be number 1 for a long time, but I think it's like top 3 now.
What did take number 1?
I don't know. We've been talking about Resident Evil 4 a lot lately.
It's pretty good.
I think I don't want to say with certainty, but like Resident Evil 4 is a really good game.
Yeah, and that's kind of like one of the things that started this off, this whole idea, because you told me to play Resident Evil 4 so we could play Resident Evil 5, and I played Resident Evil 4, and it was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And then you played it, and then I had played it like... I got you to play it in like February.
Yeah.
And I had played it for like the 3rd time.
You played it 3 times?
Maybe the 2nd time. But I played it again in October because I like to play spooky games for October.
Yeah, so do I.
And I had already played Resident Evil 4, and I was just like, I can play Resident Evil 4. And I did, and it was amazing again. And I got you to play it, and then after you were done, I was just like, I want to play Resident Evil 4 again. I haven't yet, but
yeah,
I'm in my last semester of college, and it's getting down to the wire. But I'm excited to graduate. Anyways, Fez,
yeah, that's a good game though. And so the game was kind of designed in, or at least what I've kind of read about it, Fish said that he designed the game by subtraction. So it's a lot of, if it's not needed, it's not there. So a lot of taking away things. And that's why there's like no antagonist, because the game is about puzzles and platforming and really neat environments and a super killer soundtrack.
Yeah, Disaster Piece.
Yeah.
Who has done, what has he done? He did Fez, I think was like his really big first thing. And he also did Hyperlight Drifter.
Okay.
And then he also did
play that game.
Yeah, Hyperlight Drifter is super cool. He also did the soundtrack for a movie. He did it for that horror movie It Follows, which I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I haven't heard of it.
It was like a really critically acclaimed. I think it came out 2015. I want to say it came out.
I don't watch horror movies.
Yeah, which I might give you a couple.
Oh,
not like hardcore.
Don't do this to me.
But like
we'll have to
Friday the
watch it
13th.
together.
Yeah,
because I don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I love horror video games, but I can't do horror movies.
I mean, I kind of can't do horror movies either. The horror movies I like are like B horror movies, just like, murder fests, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare Before Christmas, or not Nightmare Before Christmas,
Definitely
Nightmare on
movie.
Elm Street.
Definitely a horror
yes,
movie.
the top 5. But yeah, It Follows was super, super cool, and he did the Disaster Piece for that, super moody and everything, and yeah, Disaster Piece, 2 thumbs up from this guy.
Yeah, so really great soundtrack. And so the game kind of by subtraction, as you kind of go through the game, I didn't really realize it the first time I played it, but I've gone through Fez about 2 times on my own, and I've walked Noah through some of it, and my little brother Christopher, I've walked him through some of it. Maybe I shouldn't tell his name to the internet. I have a little brother, his name's Chris. Sorry, Chris. And
I was watching him play Overwatch downstairs before we came up and did this. His screen name's The Best.
The
so
Best.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can find him on, I guess, when we get really famous and everyone's watching this, my little brother's going to get so many friends on Battle.net. You have no idea.
He's got such a cool screen name. And he was playing with his friend, the Dovahkiin himself.
Is it Dovahkiin?
No, Dovahkiin, like Skyrim.
Oh, okay.
Dovahkiin would probably be a cooler screen name.
Yeah.
But Dovahkiin's also pretty alright.
Yeah. So I've gone through the game about 3 times. And you really start to feel the focus of the game, and it really like creates this overall experience that the game delivers exactly what it wants to and nothing more. So there's not like so I'm gonna like poop on a game now. Darksiders 2.
Oh no.
I played recently. Not recently, but I played it, and it's like God of War meets Legend of Zelda meets Borderlands. because there's all this whole loot system.
Yeah, they added the Borderlands part in 2, right?
Yeah, and I don't want a loot system in my Zelda game. And that kind of idea, well, I guess I have that now.
I'm about to say, we have that now. It's called Breath of the Wild.
And it's apparently fantastic. I haven't played it yet. But that concept of, like, you add too many things in there just to kind of fill up space, and it kind of detracts from the game, or like makes the game less focused. Fez does a really, really good job of giving you a certain type of experience that it wants to give you, and sticking to it and making it, like, really polishing it up. So it's really fantastic. So that's kind of my spiel on it. So hopefully you have a kind of a good picture of it. If this game definitely has hardcore spoilers, that the game, kind of like Undertale, if you've never played that, you want to go into this game knowing nothing. It is way better to just go in and not know anything. So
yeah, and this game's like I want to say it's like 7 years old at this point or something. It's been around for a while, so. But
it's still relatively unknown.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you just kind of glance at it, you don't really know all the like nitty gritty parts of it, which I don't think I did.
Yeah, until I kind of pushed through it.
Yeah, because I just kind of intentionally, kind of put my blinders on as far as it goes, and I always felt like I wanted to sit down and play it, but it just. What I heard about it sounded so intimidating, and I'm not crazy about puzzle games. I like tend to get frustrated, pretty easily with stuff like that. But this one, it was a lot more environmental puzzle solving, at least in the early stages than I thought it would be, like an eco. So that part I liked about it a lot. Yeah. So
if you want to play it, I know we kind of said it last time. Stop now. We're gonna get into like all the good, like juicy stuff of the game. The game has a ton of depth, probably more depth than it should.
Some parts, maybe.
And I guess, I don't know if depth's the right word, but there's a lot going on in the game, so go play it. I highly recommend it. If you don't care and you want the spoilers, well, strap in, here we go. So Noah, what'd you think about the game?
It was neat. I liked it a lot.
All right, well, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much.
Till next episode. No. Yeah, it was super cool. I really like its style, like we've said before. Gomez, the little main character, is a neat guy.
He falls asleep so fast.
He does. His idle animations are great. He just falls right on the floor and just starts going to sleep. Yeah, the art style is super great. That has a lot of ambience. Soundtrack obviously amazing, but just like all the different like art styles when you go through all the different environments are really cool. I like all the different like wildlife you'll see in different levels. There's a pigeon that's just freaking out a lot. There's a turtle that just spins. He just spins and spins, and just he's super great. Also, I'm a big fan of turtles. Turtles are recently coming up as one of my like favorite animals of all time. The environments in that game are really cool, but the puzzles, at least like in the early stages, because it starts off when you're just looking for like the like normal yellow cubes, which are like the positive cubes, I guess. But a lot of that is just like you enter an area and it's just like, hey, there's a cube here, go and find it, or like you'll get like the little bits.
Yeah, little cube bits.
Yeah, little cube bits. So you need like 8 of those to get build an actual cube. But you just kind of go find those, and those puzzles are cool. I kind of burned through those pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it was the anti-cube puzzles that I think you need 32 cubes to like technically see credits in that game. So I got the 32 cubes and just immediately was like, okay, I'm going to go finish the game. And I went through the door and jumped on all those crazy octopus space guys and saw credits. But at that point, I think I had only really gotten like 3-4 of the anti-cubes. Yeah. So I didn't really get through any of the like crazy puzzles in that game at that point. Yeah. So that's where I guess like you came in and you were I finished. I saw credits and I was just like, okay, I beat Fez. We can do the podcast. And you were like, oh, so like, how many anti-cubes did you get? And I was like, oh, I didn't really do that many of them. I got like 4. And you were like, no,
like you missed whole game.
You missed the real meat and potatoes part of that game. I'm gonna sit you down and play and act. We're gonna play Fez, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we did. I did sit Noah down to get him all the way through the game. I will say, I said like my favorite part of the game was the nonlinear storytelling, which I think is fantastic. And like, here's like the big spoilers. I'm about to do it. There's like a number system and like an alphabet in the game that you have to figure out on your own, and they have clues and stuff like that in there. And I just think like that kind of like meta game is so super cool. And no, I hadn't done any of that, and I was like, that's
I have no patience for that.
Yeah, no, like that was the game. But my favorite part is once you get like I really like that. But my favorite like moment in the game is after you beat the game, it resets you like new game plus. And you climb up the tower, and instead of getting the Fez, which allows you to like see like rotate, you get these sunglasses that allow you to go into first person view, which is super cool, and it brings in a whole new perspective. And
it's also like the 16-bit like sunglasses, like the meme, the
like,
ever so popular meme,
the deal with it meme. And it falls forever. Like
it is wild.
It zooms in on them and it falls for like a good like 10 seconds and then lands on Gomez's face and then he jumps and is really happy. It's probably my favorite point in the whole game.
Pretty cool move.
Oh, I just thought because the first time I saw it, I thought I like definitely spent a good like solid 5 minutes laughing at it.
Yeah, but the point before that, like when you finish the game for the first time and it goes through like all the crazy like going through space and then like through different dimensions and stuff, and then zooms back, and then like Gomez is just like on a drum set and he's just friggin' killing the drums and just like does like a crazy drum solo, and then that's the end of the game. Thanks. Like
it does end.
That's
with,
probably
like,
my favorite moment.
Well, because it's like all that crazy stuff. Because it like the game like freaks out and like looks like it glitches out. The game does like twice, maybe 3 times of like the oh no the game broke. Oh we have to restart. Which I thought was okay.
Yeah, that was like a lot of games like that these days do like the straight up hard crash. Like like force quits the game for you and you have to go back and relaunch. Mm-hmm. This didn't do that, but I feel like this was like a precursor to that. Like, I don't think a lot of games did that before Fez did.
Yeah, and I thought the first time with it, I was like, wait, what? It kind of caught me off guard before you got back into it. But so the game like freaks out and then it goes through this like super trippy, like all these colors going through dimensions, and then it ends with like you come out of Gomez's eye, and then it zooms out and he's on the drum set.
Yeah,
it's pretty fantastic. So I know like you like went through all like the first kind of part of the game by yourself.
Yeah.
Like doing all like the environment puzzles and that stuff is super cool. And it's probably like the first like third of the game is like you getting all the normal cubes and like figuring out the controls and like getting a good handle on it all. And the second like the next 2/3 of the game is all the anti-cubes. And so, like, I haven't actually sat down and talked with you about... I know we, like, played through the second, like, the last third of the game, or maybe the last 2/3 together. But I didn't really get your opinion on it. So did you like all that kind of super meta, like, oh, you have to figure out the language, and, like, oh, like... There are some puzzles that are just stupid. We can get to those in a minute. But, because one I thought was really cool was you have, I think, 4 cubes, and they're on... If you can, like, imagine with me, use your mind's eye. I'm going to close my eyes.
Oh, me too. Here I go.
Yeah, here we go. Eyes are closed. Close your eyes at home. Good.
Please.
Yeah. So you have a 3x3. Like you have 3 cubes by 3 cubes. So you have like a square of 9 cubes. Does that make sense? Like 9 little squares and a square. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense. You have a freaking 3x3 thing of squares.
Good.
And you have 4. And you have 4 squares on like. Placed on them, like cubes on them, and you have to make them look like certain ways from certain angles. You know, like the good old high school stuff of like, oh, like you can see these 3 angles, like how many cubes high is it or whatever.
Okay, so this is the puzzle where it's like make all these shapes but like at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you change perspectives, it will appear as a different shape because of the way that you're arranging the cubes.
And you can only interact with them in 2D. So it's the kind of deal of like, if on one screen they're right behind each other, if you turn, it looks like 1 cube.
Yeah.
Or if it's like, oh, it's on top, but it's in the middle. So on one thing, it'll look like in the middle. On the other side, it could look like it's on the far side because of how the perspectives work and that kind of stuff. And I thought those puzzles were super neat. And that's still like messing with the perspective stuff. So did you like those? Did you like the meta puzzles, like the counting, like the bell or like the clock?
The bell was actually probably one of the first things I was like taking pictures of stuff, just going like, oh, what does it mean? Just like all the different symbols and stuff. I didn't get anywhere close to, until you started like nudging me in the right directions, which took a lot of nudging because I do not catch on very quickly. Yeah, those were the process of finding those out was fun. The like I got it moment was pretty cool. It probably, if I played it by myself, I probably would have just like looked up information to also just kind of steer me in the right direction. But yeah, those are fun. Some of my favorite anti-cube puzzles are probably the ones that like were in like the hidden doors. Like I liked figuring out there were those like weird obelisks that had like hidden information in them to like codes you were supposed to input through the controller.
Yeah.
Like putting, like up, down, left, right, jump, left trigger, right trigger, all that stuff, to open secret doors. And in those levels, were like kind of like challenge platforming levels. I think those were my favorite. Cause
like that glitch room.
Yeah, the thing that was a nightmare to look at. Like,
yeah.
Golly. That one is just like the edges of the screen were like just
spazzing.
It was like spazzing with like different, like all the different textures in the game, and it was like the center was like a spotlight, as if like the rest of the room was like dark and you couldn't see anything, but it was just covered with crazy textures. That one was cool because I when I go to like platformers like that, like character platformers, I like the challenge level stuff. Like Super Mario Sunshine, my favorite parts of Super Mario Sunshine are the shines where they take FLUDD away from you, and it's just like, okay, here's a like obstacle course for you to go through, just go and get the shine. Like those are probably some of my favorite stuff. Those are some of my favorite parts of Fez, like that area. Like there was the room that had like it was like crazy like neon colors.
Yeah,
it was like
the
like
music stuff.
Yeah, it was like blue and like pinks, and it had the platforms that would disappear and reappear to the music. That was probably my favorite moment. If I had to choose like a favorite gameplay moment, that was probably my favorite. And then there was the crazy like Virtual Boy vision room where everything was like beat red.
Yeah.
And that was pretty challenging to kind of like get stuff to line up. Except for you saw it at the like when I got to the very end of that level, and there was the platform that like raises with the water, and like if you fall in the water you die. But like I like ran off the ledge to like get to the anti-cube, and for some reason Gomez just fell right through the through the platform.
He did,
and that was unfortunate.
He kitty prided there for a second.
Yeah, yes. That game, like it's all very technically sound. Like it's a very extremely well put together game, especially for an indie game. Especially one of the first indie games to get this level of popularity and notoriety. But yeah, that was one instance where the game just kind of fell apart.
And it was unfortunate because you had to wait the whole time to go up the little...
That takes forever for that whole platform to rise out of the water and stuff. But yeah, no, I like that part. And getting all the anti-cubes was fun. So
yeah. I thought, I think like learning the language and finding the numbering system, the game does nudge you in the right direction. Like you find these little cubes that's like, one's like, oh, this one's used for writing, or oh, this one's used for counting, and the one that's used for writing is in the room with the dog and the fox. It's in that treasure chest. So it's that kind of deal of like, hey, you should probably like, this is probably something to do with writing.
And that was the kind of thing where like you kind of pointed me in the right direction. Like, okay, if you want to read, know how to read, go to that room. And I was like, okay, and I went to that room, and then I saw like immediately like, oh, there's like wildlife in this room, and oh hey, there's a fox and it's jumping over that dog. That's like that thing, right? Like the quick fox jumps over the lazy brown dog, and you were like,
yeah, I was like, that's it. I was like, I didn't know that. So when I played this game, a friend of mine named Evan, who I lived with for about 3 years in college, he played the game first and got me into it. And so he was like, he did the same thing. He's like, it's in this room, figure it out. And I was like, I have no idea what's to do this room. I spent about 10, 15 minutes just like jumping around the room, like trying to figure it out. And I just thought the dog and the fox were just like, oh, it's just wildlife. They're just hanging out. And so like Evan came back in. He's like, have you figured it out yet? I was like, no, no clue. And he's like, well, like, does that dog and fox mean anything? And I was like, nope. No, nothing's up here.
Mechanical engineer.
Yeah. So, So I was really kind of impressed when I was like, oh yeah, it's that saying, right? And it's like what? Has like a noun, a verb, an adjective, and a pronoun. Has like every single thing in there. And I was like, it's close. Very close.
And then it turns out it was just straight up, hey, the obelisk says that.
Yeah.
Try to decipher what the language is from.
Yeah, because that sentence, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Something like that.
Has every single letter in that phrase.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like, oh, you have every single letter in this phrase. That's what the obelisk says. You can learn how to figure it out, and then you get the letters. And then you can read going into doing other stuff.
Yeah, which there's only really a couple puzzles for that.
Yeah.
I felt like I was expecting more puzzles to have to do with reading.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, there's the
riddle, and that's really the only
worst
one I can think of.
Yeah, and the riddle is just the worst. Okay, so I guess we can talk about it. How do you feel about the 3 heart puzzles? So the riddle, the shadow obelisk, and the telescope with the little red flashy lights.
The telescope was interesting. I liked the anti-cube for that one. The one where you're
first anti-cube?
Yeah, where you were piecing together all the tetraminos in the sky to figure out the inputs. The second one, yeah, pretty much, I guess all those heart things were, except for the riddle, which you could technically, really try and figure out for yourself if you really, really tried hard. I'm terrible at riddles, so I didn't. But pretty much all those, you've told me yourself that, this game, there were parts of it that are so complicated that it took the internet to figure out. Here's the obelisk.
Yeah.
The obelisk, you were telling me that, on a message board for Fez, they're just like, okay, I set up this program where you can just enter in all the codes you've input, and then it'll match those against ones that have already been put in, and the internet's gonna ram its head against this thing until it figures it out, because no one can figure this out.
I do think that Fez is a really cool representation, or kind of a cool moment in internet history, where it shows the power of the internet. The internet can do a lot of really cool good stuff and a lot of really cool bad stuff. This is a cool good stuff moment where the developer Fish did no hints, just figure it out. I guess he gave some hints. It was super complicated. I guess they really people figured out how you're supposed to figure it out. But so you have to put in these this set of inputs that's 8 long. And there's almost no hints in the game about it. It's unbelievably complicated to figure it out. So what the internet did is a guy set up a website and he was like, hey, I'm going to spit you out an 8-digit code. You input it. If it doesn't work, let us know so I don't give that code again. And just handed out codes to whoever would do it until someone figured out the code and then said, hey, this is the code. And the internet knew the code.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it's, the internet is a huge beast and will accomplish anything it puts its mind to.
Yeah, and so I think that is I like Fez because I like the game. I think the game's super fun, but also moments like that you can go to the internet now and on IGN or any Reddit and stuff. It'll just be oh yeah, here's the code, here it is. But that concept of the first pioneers playing Fez that get to that room and are what is this? How do we figure this out? And the internet teaming up and banding together to just brute force its way through.
Yeah, nowadays that the internet is just so established. You have moments PT. You remember PT, the horror game that Hideo Kojima did, where there is a part of that game that he was expecting the internet people are going to be talking about this on the internet and it's going to take them months. It's going to take at least 3 months for the internet to figure this out. And it took a couple hours for them to figure it out, which just shows the sheer force and intelligence of the internet, of just this group think, all together, the think tank, I guess.
Yeah. What was the thing that was it the one where you're collecting the little pieces of the picture frame?
Yeah, and then one of them is just straight up you go into the start menu, and then you turn your camera a little bit to the left, and there's a piece of it upside down in the UI.
Yeah,
that you have to look at weird in order for it to unlock. Yeah, that game has some obtuse puzzles itself, but hey, Hideo Kojima's kind of a delightfully obtuse man.
Yeah.
And the video game industry is a better place with him.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that I think like Fez does really cool with those puzzles. So yeah, because like the shadow, like that obelisk thing was supposed to be like, oh, you like take the date when the game came out, and then you like flip it this way, and then oh, it's like this is a shadow of a fourth dimensional object, so it leaves a 3-dimensional shadow, and yada yada yada, and just doesn't.
But no, the internet just ran its head until it figured it out.
Yeah, I wonder how Fish feels about that.
I don't know. I feel like if I were the creator, if I were to have created something like that, I'd still feel pretty proud that like, oh, I created something so, like difficult that the internet just like banded together to try to figure it out, even though they were just kind of brute forcing it. But
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like, do you think, like, I guess I would never would have figured those out.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
So yeah, it's kind of like the meat and potatoes of the game is all that stuff of of the figuring out, oh, you have to figure out the language. The biggest thing is like, I think probably the most fun thing was figuring out those input codes, because there's that room where like if you jump up, like whenever you put in the code, it shows that shape, right? You know what I'm talking about? You like jump up there and like you go up, and like as you input the codes, that shows the shape of that's on the obelisk, but it's like sideways and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the coolest thing that like you get to figure out on your own. And the game does do a good job if like you're very aware and very hard thinking about it, of giving you hints and pointing you in the right direction. After playing it the first time, it's very obvious, again, being like, oh, of course, like this is the room, this is what this means. Okay, yeah, these are really good hints. But if you're going in blind, it's really difficult to really piece that together.
Yeah, I really like the puzzles in the game, the anti-cube stuff. There's some stuff that, like... Okay, I also just looked it up. This game came out in 2012, so it's a little... it's not as old as I thought it was, but it also is kind of showing its age, in that, like, 2 of the puzzles in the game involve looking at QR codes.
Yes.
Which aren't really used anymore.
Yeah, those I thought were a little silly. But I guess back in 2012, it was like, oh, QR codes, like, they're the way of the future, or whatever.
Yeah, turns out it's just fine to just put a URL on a poster, and people will just look that up instead of having to install an entirely new app that isn't local to the phone and then giving it access to your camera, which some people aren't cool with, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, those anti-cubes were easy, because it was just like, oh, mysterious QR code, and I scanned it with my phone, and then it just gave me a code to input, and then I did it. And then I got the anti-cube.
Yeah, there's definitely one as well. There's one anti-cube that it's just in the achievements, it has the code. Which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. But you did that one, so did I the first time I played it, just hitting the triggers back and forth randomly, and the anti-cube just appeared.
Yeah, I was trying to, there was one level in the sewer, which is super cool. The sewer has, like, a Game Boy Color, or not Game Boy Color, but, like, original Game Boy, like, green and gray texture to it. I like that a lot. But there was an area in there where there was like a floating platform that you had to like rotate a second platform to try and get it to land on it, and I was just kept like rotating the perspective on it in like different ways to try and get it to land on there. And then all of a sudden it was just like, well, you got the anti-cube, and I was like, what? I wasn't trying to, but okay, that a thing just happened in this game, whatever.
Yeah. It does remind me of the same. We were playing The Witness recently, and there was like, The Witness is another puzzle game. It's about drawing lines on boards. And there was one that like, it was like, you're supposed to walk through the path a certain way, and then you have to draw that path. And I like, this one was like really complicated of, oh, like the things didn't line up and it overlapped them and all this crazy stuff. And I just like I just guessed it and got it right.
Yeah. And then you turned around and you looked at me, and I was just like, whoa, like, I have to tell you what you did now, because you obviously didn't learn anything from just like giving it one shot and there you go.
I felt very smart that day. I felt very smart.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that's more or less, I mean, is there anything else you want to bring up?
No, I mean, I enjoyed my time with the game. It was a fun video game.
Yeah, because I know you're not a huge fan of puzzle games.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's, I'll try and play all the big ones, but like, I can't really think of any examples of ones that I don't like. But like, it's just the kind of stuff where like I love The Witness. Like I put a good, decent amount of hours into The Witness. I haven't beat it because I just got to a point in that game where I was like, okay, this is getting way too hard, and I feel like I'm at a point in this game where I want to start looking stuff up, but that's kind of not the point of this game, so I just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was kind of a little hesitant to go into Fez, because so much of that game is the puzzle solving, and for this I had to finish it, so that was a little intimidating. But you had completed it all, so that was it was nice to have you there to help.
It is definitely, if you like banging your head against the wall, you have already played the game, because we literally spoiled everything already. So if you like banging your head against the wall, Fez is a really good game just to play on your own. But it definitely is a game that you're probably not going to complete 100% unless you look up something.
Yeah, or you have a buddy. Like you had Evan.
Yeah, I had Evan to kind of help me out with that. So it definitely is a better, I think Fez is probably the best played, kind of what Noah did, the first half on your own, and then when you start getting stuck, you have someone to come in to kind of push you in the right direction. So you still get to figure it out on your own, but you're not just looking up the answers, and you're not just banging your head against the wall for hours and hours and hours just because you haven't pieced it together yet. So overall, let's do a 2-hand score.
So what are you doing with your hands?
A 1 out of 10.
Okay, you just kind of put both your hands up
don't shoot.
But it was a little putting up all your fingers okay, out of this many fingers, how many would you give it?
That's more or less how that
I'm a
would
2-year-old. I give it this many. But
yeah, okay.
Is that what you're telling me though? Is
1 out of 10? No.
Okay, 1 out of 10. The old finger score.
The old finger score, yes.
Or the old 2-hand score. What did you say? Okay.
I think I said the 2-hand score.
If I were to give it a score, I would. It's hard to give it because it's been out for so long, and it's so critically acclaimed. But my completely unbiased opinion,
your personal preference,
my personal preference, I would give it a 9.
Okay.
An 8.5 maybe. I'd say a 9. Out of a pure game design way of putting things, and just my fun with the game, I'd probably give it a 9.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I do think that the level design, super cool. The soundtrack, super awesome. The gameplay, really tight, and the puzzles are super neat.
Heck yeah.
So
2 thumbs up. Otherwise known as a 9.
Yeah, the 2-hand score, 2 thumbs up. So if you already listened to this and you haven't played the game yet, well, now you can go just experience and explore the game. Even if you know all the secrets, the game is just super charming and super cool to go and mess around in. So yeah.
Next week's show, I'm going to go ahead and give Kevin his my recommendation for him.
I have we talked about this. We're not going to tell each other what it is until this moment. So I literally have no idea what Noah's about to tell me.
Going in blind. So next week, I thought we've done a movie and a game.
Yeah.
Next week, I thought we'd dive into the world of music.
All right.
And this for 2 weeks from now, next episode, I am assigning you I would call them, I think in the music industry would call them the emo punk pioneers, a band. Their album came out in 1999. This is of course American Football.
American Football.
Now, American Football, they came out with their first album in 1999.
Didn't they just recently come out with a new album?
They did, because they came out with the first album in 1999. They had an EP a little bit before, maybe 98. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But they're super cool, lo-fi, emo punk kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just really chill, electric guitar. But they also have the drummer is a trained jazz drummer, so it's a lot of really nice kind of bossa nova stuff. Mm-hmm. And they also have a lot of bands. A lot of rock bands in the 90s, they have a kind of a horn section
to
some of their stuff too. they came out with their first album in like 99, and like they didn't have a lot of attention on them at that time, but in like the 2000s, I think like even like the 2010s, they started getting a lot of popularity because people just started discovering them on the internet. And then like it was 2016, last year, they finally came out with a second album follow-up like 18 years later.
And it's called American Football.
17 years later. Yeah, the band's called American Football.
And both albums are called American Football.
The first album's called American Football. I think the second one's maybe like American Football Part 2.
And I think it's just American Football. The reason I know this, I listened to a podcast called Comedy Bang Bang. It's really great. Like it a lot. And they guessed that they showed up on that podcast. And they
American Football?
American Football did.
Oh, cool.
And so they talked about like, hey, like we have a new album out. Yeah, and they kind of talked about it's like, yeah, like we played way back when, and then we didn't do anything. We all like split up, did different bands, then we came back together and we're touring again. And it's literally American Football.
Sweet, yeah.
Both albums are called the same thing. Like, yeah, like get the one with the door on it, not the one with the house. Like, just so you're like, or buy both. They're like, it doesn't matter. So,
I would recommend buying both. They're both excellent albums. But yeah, if you want to follow along with us for the next episode, go ahead and load up American Football. I guess I'll have you listen to both albums.
Yeah, I think it'll be best for music-wise to listen to them kind of in order, because then you kind of get to experience them as they grew up. Especially
with this one, because it's like they were like 18 when they recorded that first album, and now they're like in their 30-somethings. So the tone and the lyrics are kind of a lot different, but it's still. I listened to the second album again today, and the vibe is still very much the same.
Yeah,
so.
And just like music-wise, like a band Noah and I both really like is Panic at the Disco.
Heck yeah,
they're super
Went
great.
To go see their concert last week.
Was it? Yeah, was that good?
It was really good.
Was it? That's cool.
Brandon got on a piano and started floating into the sky. It was crazy.
Wow.
Also, Pete Wentz was there in the recording. Not actually there physically, but it was like Pete Wentz's face showed up on a big TV screen and was like Clockwork Orange style torturing Brandon Urie, and it was strange, but everyone was like, Pete Wentz. So
but like they have a lot of like their first album, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, compared to Death of a Bachelor is like
totally different,
super different. But like if you go through all of their albums, you get to see like Brandon Urie specifically, because he's the only one really kind of left.
He's the only the drummer left like 2 albums ago.
Yeah, so like you get to see that band of grow and evolve and change, and it's like a really cool thing to see. And if you like listen to Death of a Bachelor and you really like that, you may or may not like Vices and Virtues or A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. They're very different.
Pretty Odd. Pretty Odd is pretty like divisive even amongst Panic at the Disco fans.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, no, it's a super cool album.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's I think like listening to them from the beginning and going through the albums that way, you get to kind of grow with them. Because if you like listen to like another band we really like, Churches, super great.
Yeah.
And their first album is awesome, and their second album is just way better.
Yeah.
And so like if you listen to their first album first, you like really like their stuff, and then if you listen to their second album,
every single track is so good.
Yeah, then you won't like their first album nearly as much if you listen to that first. So I'll probably end up trying to listen. They only have 2 albums.
Yeah, they only have 2 albums, so it won't take that. It's not like a huge commitment, like if you're listening like to like a Panic at the Disco or like
try to chug through all their
or like a Metallica or something that has like tons of albums. But yeah, so cool. American Football, next episode.
Yeah, look it up. All right, cool. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been Hey Dude, check this out. Yep. And you dudes should really check out American Football.
Heck yeah.
Check them out. All right, see you next time, guys.
Bye, dudes.
Outro music. Outro music, yeah. Are we leaving that in? I hope so.
I specifically did not hit stop yet so that I might be able to use that as a sample.
Man, that's good. That's good.